Week number 3, and in this mini lecture, we're going to cover the various leadership styles that are present in the leadership structure or in leadership theory altogether. And so we'll look at what makes it distinct, why it's effective, and how it impacts teams and even your particular organization, business, or church. So again, we're looking at leadership styles and how they impact you personally in the role that you fulfill at your current place of work. So let's just review some of the different leadership styles. There's autocratic, laissez-faire, transactional, transformational, and participative. And these leadership styles do not fit all one individual. Matter of fact, leadership isn't a one-size-fits-all as we look at that particular concept. So we often hear in our different literature or news or social media outlets that there are autocratic leaders who make decisions alone. So we know those kinds of leaders. We also know leaders that are laissez-faire. They tend to step back, and then there are those transformational leaders who inspire us. They lead with vision, they encourage, they help the organization move to the next level of success. And so today we're going to look at all of these, but particularly look at how they unfold within your particular organization. Now, autocratic leadership is characterized by an individual who endeavors to take control of the decision-making process. And oftentimes they receive very little input from its members or groups, and typically this leader is choice-based. And so while they may go out and seek advice or wisdom from others, their judgments and rarely they actually accept the wisdom of others from even their followers. So when we think in terms of the autocratic type of leadership, it is known as authoritarian. It's prevalent throughout history. The style often focuses on a single leader making the decisions without the input of others. We have some famous autocratic kinds of leadership, such as kings that run the affairs of a nation. So we often, our eyes are drawn to the nation of England and how there's a king, and even though that is no longer the same as it was in its latter days, and now it's run by a parliament. So you get the sense that here's a king who's autocratic. Other historical figures such as Napoleon Bonaparte, you have King Henry III, you have Queen Elizabeth, and so on. So this leadership style, the focus is on requiring the individual to make quick decisions with a clear direction. So that's the autocratic leadership style. There's transactional leader, and it was first coined by a German sociologist by Max Weber. You may know it as Weberism. This was in the early 1947s, and later Weberism would be expanded upon by Bernard Bass in the late 1981. And so this particular style is focusing on structure, performance, also the essence of short-term goals. They use systems to reward and even punish and to guide team behavior. Is effective oftentimes in environments that require specific order and consistency, and such as we might see transactional leadership displayed in a military personnel unit, or especially in a very large corporation where you have multiple vice presidents, and then you have sub-layers underneath that, directors and managers that will carry out the day-to-day responsibilities. Of course, there's transformational leadership, and this is the style where the leader is encouraging the team, creating the vision, and guiding the team through a series of inspiring moments and executing those changes in tandem with the committed group or members of that group. And the style is often effective in driving importance toward innovation and even change management within that particular theory. There's participative leadership. It was known by Kurt Lewin in the 1930s. So we've already touched on Kurt Lewin early on in week one. And slowly this particular theory began to gain momentum really after the World War II era. The Industrial Revolution was gaining more rapid growth. Factories were in full scale. And so this involved all of the members in the decision-making process, encouraging strong collaboration, input from every member and owner and constituents that made up the group. And oftentimes it engaged those who would have the direct impact. Much of our unions emerged from this type of democratic leadership style or participative leadership, developed largely through Kurt Lewin's approach within manufacturing environment. What is participative leadership? Well, in number one, it involves team members making the decision. So it encourages that understanding. It encourages the dialogue or communication, open, transparent communications happening. It balances both authority and even inclusion. And so the thought here is that as I engage people in the process, growth is going to take place. There's going to be a collaborative effort toward vision and mission and even values. And the leader is not seen as the standalone authoritative figure, but comes along and creates an environment where voices can be heard and the input of others. So again, we want to look at some of the benefits of this kind of leadership structure. You might have this in your organization, and definitely you might practice this in your current leadership realm. And so one of the benefits is that it builds trust and respect. You're bringing people along and you're including them, you're investing in what I would call is the outcome. And so decisions are of the many, not just one individual is making that decision. And so it benefits multiple perspectives. It brings the team together to show more creativity and innovation in the decision-making process. I do think it improves decision quality, that you're able to hear from the multiple of members on your team. And you're able to hear both the positive and areas of improvement that need to take place from those that are serving under your care. And I think that's an important part of a leader, to hear from those who are under your care, that they are needing maybe systems, they're needing tools to make their job better, or maybe there's a log jam that is happening between departments, and you're needing to hear that from your workers. And so this is where I see increased team commitment. And lastly, what it does provide is that the encouragement toward innovation as a outcome product, that you're able to pivot the organization toward that next best thing. What are some of the challenges that you have to know as a leader if you're working through a participative leadership style? Well, the first is that there's often slower decision-making process that's taking place within that group or team, and you got to bring more people along on the decision that needs to be made. There's the risk of conflict when the ideas are coming together, and you really want your idea to take the center stage, and then the leader takes on that indecision. Well, should I go with that idea or the next person's idea? And so there's a risk that certain stronger members of the group or team, take the center stage. Their ideas get heard more than yours. And then lastly, it does require a consistent facilitator that's going to guide the entire group toward a decision-making process. So it requires making sure everyone gets the input. And so there's a lot of stopping and pausing during those collaborative environments. In these kinds of environments, I really enjoy sort of like an ideation lab where there's multiple whiteboards in a room where you can just go to different whiteboards and throw up your ideas on the whiteboard and every team member has a marker and they're being included in the process. Now, you might not be able to do that in a virtual space. Of course, some of our virtual platforms such as Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and other providers do provide a whiteboard option where you can bring that into a team and virtual meeting and ultimately get to the same level where you would in an in-person environment. But nonetheless, the leader has to balance the load here. This is going to be an important part of that process. They're going to need to bring clarity for each that is participating in this group discussion. And again, this needs and requires strong facilitation skills, is a must at this point of the decision-making process. Now, some practical application. You can practice this kind of leadership in everyday moments, such as in team discussions. You can involve others in the planning sessions or the planning process. You can also do regular checkups and give the needed space and time for your group or team to provide the needed feedback that you're longing to include in that final decision-making process. If you remember one thing, though, in this particular leadership style, it does weaken the authority structure, but what it does do, it strengthens the commitment of the whole. So again, team meetings are open with dialogue. There's oftentimes brainstorming sessions. You can have shared goal settings, and you can also encounter that positive feedback loop that you're wanting others to model and show, and you're doing that as the leader as a whole.